Democrats in Olympia have rejected a motion that would have fast-tracked a police pursuit initiative over for a hearing. Let's talk about it in our segment, Unbelievable. Boop. All right, last Friday, the first of 6 common sense initiatives to go to the legislature was officially certified by the Secretary of State's office. So that begins the process of the legislature considering it. Reasonable Police Pursuits is, as the sponsors of it call it, Initiative 2113. What it would do is it would just put our police pursuit law back to how it was before everyone panicked in 2021 in the name of race and social justice and completely ruined it. So you would have individual police departments who can really use their judgment in deciding whether pursuing often violent, dangerous criminals is in the best interest of public safety or not. More than 400,000 Washingtonians signed this initiative. Obviously, it was certified because they determined that there were, in fact, enough signatures to make it valid. And so the question is, okay, what's going to happen from here? And then we talked about at the beginning of the show how a second initiative has now been certified to repeal the cap and trade program. And then I'm sure the other 4 are going to be as well. So the options, as you know, as we've discussed, are the legislature adopts it and just says, okay, the people want this, at least 400,000 of them. We think this is good. We're going to adopt it and it's going to become law. The other option is they come up with some alternative. They send them both to the voters to decide November, or they just ignore it. They do nothing with it. And then the voters get to decide in November. I have said, though, that I thought if any of the 6 initiatives was likely to be adopted by the legislature, it would be this one, for a variety of reasons, which I will touch on momentarily. But besides all that, the Washington State Constitution really places a high value on these initiatives to the legislature, saying this is the voice of the people. And when the legislature gets one of these initiatives, according to Article 2, Section 1A of the state constitution, such initiative measures shall take precedence over all other measures in the legislature except appropriation bills, and shall be either enacted or rejected without change or amendment by the legislature before the end of such regular session. Shall take precedence. So what that tells me is the second this thing was certified, the majority party and the minority party should be getting together deciding what are we going to do with it. If we're going to reject it, fine. But it shall take precedence over everything else except bills having to do with budgetary issues. So Drew Stokesbury, who is the House Republican leader, he made a motion on the floor to fast track this thing to committee. Let's get this thing, it shall take precedence. Let's get this thing to committee. Let's have a hearing where members of the public, where subject matter experts can come in, can testify about why the legislature should adopt it. Here's what he said, and here's what happened.
As indicated by this motion, it would allow for the limited suspension of rules to instruct the Public Safety Committee to immediately, promptly hold a public hearing on House Bill 2113. There's 2 reasons we should suspend the House rules to add those instructions to the committee, Mr. Speaker. First, we have a moral responsibility to the 420,000 Washingtonians who signed the initiative to give them a voice and an opportunity to explain to the committee why they signed that initiative and allow the legislature to consider allow that committee to consider the measure. More importantly, Mr. Speaker, we have a constitutional responsibility. As you may or may not know, Mr. Speaker, Article 2, Section 1A of the state constitution has the phrase that initiatives to the legislature shall take precedence over all other measures before the legislature other than budget bills. So, Mr. Speaker, this is a fantastic opportunity to ensure compliance with the Constitution by elevating the importance of this initiative. I fully understand that we don't normally instruct committees to hold hearings. We leave that in the discretion of the committee itself. But by this body instructing the committee to hold a hearing, I think in my mind we would have complied with the constitutional requirement that these initiatives shall take precedence over all other measures. I recognize that suspending the rules is not something that we should do lightly, but it's also not something that we do irregularly, Mr. Speaker. In fact, we suspend the rules quite routinely. Anytime we want to work after 10 p.m., we suspend the rule that does not allow us to otherwise work after 10 p.m. Anytime that we want to move a bill from second to third reading in the same day, we suspend the rules for that. So it is quite common for this House to suspend the rules for limited purposes. That's what this initiative would, that's what this motion would do, allow us to suspend the rules to ensure that this important initiative signed by 430,000 Washingtonians receives a hearing in the Public Safety Committee. I urge a yes vote.
A roll call vote has been requested. The Speaker's about to open the roll call machine. Speaker has opened the roll call machine.
Mr. Speaker, there are 38 yeas, 58 nays, 2 excused.
The motion is not adopted.
Right along party lines. All the Republicans voted to allow the motion to fast track this thing to committee because the Constitution of our state says it should be a priority of the legislature. All the Democrats voted against it. And as Representative Stokesbury said, they suspend the rules for all sorts of things. They suspend the rules to be able to continue to debate late into the night, which happens every legislative session. And he thought that this was, and he, by the way, and I got in touch with him. I just wanted some information about what led up to this. This was not a surprise that he had let Democrats know that they were going to make this motion. So it's not as if Democrats were blindsided by it or caught off guard by it. They just don't want, first of all, the Republicans in the minority to dictate what's happening on the floor in motions and stuff. But they just don't care. And I think that is reflective of House Speaker Lori Jenkins and what she said when I asked her about the initiatives that were going to be sent to the legislature.
I guess I'll just make a few comments about this. I'm very saddened when I think about why the initiative process was established in this state. To have a populist approach it was really like the big railroad barons that folks didn't want taking over the state, and they wanted the people to be able to legislate. So now what do we have is an ultra-wealthy multi-millionaire buying his way onto the ballot and putting initiatives on the ballot that are going to benefit his ultra-wealthy status. That said, they're there. So I think we have to deal with them.
Yeah, so you have the most powerful Democrat in the state legislature who thinks that little of the initiative process, who thinks that little of the hundreds of thousands of Washingtonians who came out to sign these initiatives, who thinks that they were misled by some millionaire who's doing this to line his pockets. Lori Jenkins, tell me how it lines Brian Haywood's pockets for him to help restore reasonable police pursuits. Now, one of the initiatives has to do with the tax on capital gains. Certainly that would impact Brian Haywood and any other wealthy Washingtonian financially, but you can't say that of the other 5. You simply can't. And so you have, again, the House Speaker who thinks little of this initiative process. Is it any surprise in the world that Democrats would all reject an effort to fast track this thing to a hearing to give you and I and whoever else wants to talk a chance to discuss why it's important, why public safety is important? So, Constitution of the state be damned, Article 2, Section 1A, be damned. This thing is supposed to take precedent. They don't care. They're focused on their pet projects, like some of the bills that we've discussed, trying to get Donald Trump off the ballot, trying to get their political enemies off the ballot, trying to ban you from using gas-powered lawn care devices. They've got their twisted priorities. State Constitution be damned.